Good morning. Morning manna time with me, Jerry Catherine. Just a brief moment in our morning with God to start our day off the right way, remembering that God feeds our soul day by day in the very same way that God fed the wilderness wandering Hebrew people of Exodus 16, giving to them just what they needed every day to sustain them throughout their day. God does the same for us today. We are in Matthew 1 through 17, reading every day this week from Jesus' genealogy and allowing these verses to feed our souls, not skipping or skimming them. And so far, in looking at Jesus' genealogy, we are reminded of God's faithfulness throughout time, and each of Jesus' ancestors has a story, a testimony of God's presence and of God's power throughout their life and at work in our world. And then, of course, yesterday we looked at Jesus's genealogy and allowed it to remind us of Jesus's humanity. Yes, Jesus was God, but Jesus is also human. God took on human flesh, and through the person of Jesus Christ, God experienced all the good, all the bad, and ugly of life. And so we know and can trust that God meets us in our humanity and all life's up and downs. So let's get to it and read Matthew 1 through 17, and learn from Jesus' family tree today. An account of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, and Judah the father of Perez, and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Aram, and Aram the father of Aminadab, and Aminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. And David was the father of Solomon, the wife of Uriah, and Solomon the father of Rehoboam, and Rehoboam the father of Abijah, and Abijah the father of Asaph, and Asaph the father of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat the father of Joram, and Joram the father of Uzziah, and Uzziah the father of Jotham, and Jotham the father of Ahaz, and Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, and Manasseh the father of Amos, and Amos the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah, and Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation of Babylon. And after the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Salathiel, and Salathiel the father of Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel the father of Abiad, and Abiad the father of Eliakim, and Eliakim the father of Azor, and Azor the father of Zadok, and Zadok the father of Ahim, and Ahim the father of Eliad, and Eliad the father of Eleazar, and Eleazar the father of Mathan, and Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, to whom Jesus was born, and who is called the Messiah. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation of Mary to Babylon, 14 generations, from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. So on this Woman Candy Wednesday, and yes, that is a social media thing just as much as calling Wednesday today Hump Day, let's look at the women in Jesus's family tree. First, there are women. Might not seem significant to us today, but most genealogies in the ancient world did not record women. They recorded everything through the male lineage. And of all the weeks, it seems very fitting to look at these women who Matthew recorded in Jesus' genealogy on this week, when we here in the United States celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, the first time women were really recognized as fully human in many, many ways. Since the days before Jesus, women haven't always afforded the rights and respect or recognition of our world. But of all the women Matthew could have linked to Jesus, he remembered, well, yes, Mary, his mother, but we won't talk about her so much. He remembered Tamar, Ruth, Rahab, and Bathsheba. Not women you might expect to be remembered in Jesus's genealogy, like Sarah perhaps, or Leah, or Rachel, or Rebecca. No, the women recorded in Matthew's genealogy of Jesus are, one, outside of Mary, of course, whom we love, but we're talking about these other women. These women's, Tamar, Ruth, Rahab, and Bathsheba, are one, they are outsiders. They are from other nations. And two, they are all connected with sex scandals. Women were pretty low on the human hierarchy, but then there were these women. And these women were the absolute bottom of the hierarchy. Matthew doesn't even say Bathsheba like she's some kind of Voldemort from Harry Potter, the one who shall not be named. She is just Uriah the Hittite's wife, a Gentile woman, a Hittite, raped by a Jewish king. And to hear the names of the other women, Tamar, who was a Canaanite and the mother and sister-in-law of Perez. Yes, you heard that right. The mother, but also the sister-in-law of Perez. You can read her story in Genesis 38. Or Rahab, a Canaanite prostitute. Or Ruth, a Moabite. Under the law of Moses, all these women were not welcomed into the Jewish community. And those who were around when the temple existed were not allowed to worship in the temple. They were outsiders, shunned, not welcomed. Nevertheless, these women are remembered in Jesus' family tree by Matthew. In short, for me, the takeaway is this. These women tell of our God's great, big, inclusive love for all, everywhere. It is a testimony of God's desire to draw all people from all walks of life around the world to the family of God. There are no insiders, there are no outsiders. And Jesus' lineage is testimony of that. Matthew begins his gospel with a bold declaration of God's love for the whole world that leaves no one out. And if you flip over to Matthew 28, Matthew ends his gospel with the same proclamation. Go to all nations, Matthew says, or Jesus says. Leave no one behind. Love all, welcome all, include all. So remember this day. We worship a God who sees all, who loves all, who welcomes all, and wants all to have a relationship with God. And as people who profess to be people of this loving God, we too are called to live such a way that welcomes all, loves all, and helps all know this loving, loving God. So let your breath prayer continue to be today. God is faithful. God is everlasting. Amen.